Today, we're going to talk about why Property Guru bit big on brand and launched a reality TV show.
I don't think, even myself included, had working on a reality TV show on my bingo card at the beginning of last year. One of the challenges that I identified is that although our awareness is really high, we don't necessarily have that brand equity and that emotional resonance that I think really separates the most timeless brands.
Why did you get a green light for a reality TV show instead of another digital or performance marketing campaign?
Started as very much kind of a pipe dream, but it all kind of changed when I very coincidentally sat down with Quark and we had drinks together and started brainstorming and fleshing out whether this was possible or not.
Property Guru really, it's about finding your home.
Yeah.
Which is a very universal thing.
So what were you looking at? Was it organic search? Was it brand metrics that you had in place? Like, what were you tracking for the success of the reality show?
We saw from the show alone about 5 million views. We did a pre and a post brand survey as well. We saw that our preference scores went up, our NPS went up. I took a little bit of a risk and I said, what would happen if we suspended all performance marketing? So we actually saw a 3% increase in the number of leads that we were getting.
Anything you want to sneak preview about season 2?
Season 2 is definitely going to be so much more exciting.
Hello and welcome to the CMO Office. My name is Nikki Taylor and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for Analytic Partners and your host today. I have two lovely guests with me today. First up is Alex De Leon, the VP of Marketing for Property Guru. Welcome. And Quark Henares, the film producer who helped work on Home Run Singapore. Today, we're going to talk about why Property Guru bit big on brand and launched a reality TV show. Wow, that's amazing. So starting with you, Alex, first off, what I want to know is, let's go big before we go deep. So why did you get a green light for a reality TV show instead of another digital or performance marketing campaign?
Yeah.
What was that business case?
It's quite interesting because I don't think, even myself included, had working on a reality TV show on my bingo card at the beginning of last year. But I think taking a little bit of a step back to set the context for how we arrived here. Property Guru has been around in Southeast Asia for about 16 years. Generally really, really well known as a brand. So for example, in Singapore, almost every single person knows Property Guru. They've used Property Guru at some point in their life. But I think from a marketing perspective, one of the challenges that I identified is that although our awareness is really high, we don't necessarily have that brand equity and that emotional resonance that I think really separates the most timeless brands. Yeah. And the challenge there, I think, when you're not really investing in building that type of direct engagement with your consumer, is that one, you open yourself up to competition, right? So anytime another competitor comes in the space, they can do something similar to what you're doing. You kind of run that risk there. But I think second of all as well is that when you build that emotional connection with your consumer, you understand them better and you're able to serve their needs better as well. So it creates a little bit of a flywheel. So as I was thinking about how we could start deepening that engagement with consumers, a lot of the stuff that I said was, how do we look at what's already working around the world? So I'm not a reality TV show watcher myself. My wife was my kind of creative consultant for this project, but you see around the world, there's like the Selling Sunsets and the Owning Manhattans of the world. So there's a format that kind of works, right? So instead of trying to think about, can we make our own entirely new concept completely from scratch, it was leveraging something that we already know that there's some sort of audience demand for inherently. So that was really the genesis, starting to tease at that idea that, is this something that we could do? And it started as very much kind of a pipe dream at first. Wasn't something that I thought we would actually be able to do successfully. But it all kind of changed when I very coincidentally sat down with Quark and we had drinks together and started brainstorming and fleshing out whether this was possible or not.
That's great. I mean, you said Selling Sunset. I'm a huge fan. I totally see it now. Now I see it. I hadn't seen that. But I totally get what you mean. Like these big ideas we get as marketers are always great, but it always comes with a lot of pressure of how am I actually going to get this through on two levels, from an execution perspective, but also from a business perspective. So, Quark, tell me a little bit, like when you sat down, how did this idea evolve? And then back to you, Alex, like how did you take that through to the pitch to your CEO and CFO?
So when we met, I mean, Neil, your producer, knows this all too well. Like usually when you talk with a client about a grand idea such as this.
I thought we were friends. I didn't know he was a client. we were having a friends catch up.
We were having a friends, but we were
I didn't know it was a
talking
business meeting, but
That's what you think, Alex. That's what you
he
think.
sold me on something. So,
On his phone, it still says Property Guru Alex.
So
I
it
did
worked.
end up paying
My
him, to be
plan
fair.
worked. I'm
So
sorry.
he is a client.
The jig is up. No, but basically, when there's always like a grand plan, 90% of the time it does not happen, right? It's
Yes.
just like you're
there.
spitballing for a bit
Yep.
and you're building, and then suddenly it's just you're dead in
Gone.
the water and not happening.
Yep.
So I was so surprised at how fast everything.
really?
Yeah, everything moved. It's like maybe in 2 months we were shooting.
Wow.
maybe 2 or 3 months.
That's amazing.
Something like that.
And I think what happened there is, so I'm sort of known amongst my team as, I'm a little bit of an ideas guy. I know that has like a negative connotation, but I've got maybe 15 different cool, exciting things that I think we could be doing at any particular time. But I think, especially when you're branching off into new territories, this wasn't sort of a standard brand campaign that we were thinking about. Almost every part of whether you're going to be successful or not depends on the team that you're able to put
Absolutely.
together.
Yep.
And Quark hates when I say this, but he is the most famous director in the Philippines. He's a legend back
Lies.
in our home country. And so when he and I were talking, I wasn't even actually thinking about him. I thought he might know a really junior person who might take on my rinky-dink project. But then when he seemed interested and we were really bouncing ideas and we had a lot of that positive rapport and energy, that's when it started to actually become a lot more tangible in my head that, oh my God, like we might be able to get Quark on this project. And that makes it tremendously more credible than if I was just sort of finding my own director and putting the whole team together. So from there, it was really just Quark who really kind of put together the initial foundation.
But yeah, dream client, but also dream
And
friend.
yeah.
No, but it's
backpedaling now,
really we can
backpedaling.
get back to
Dream
that
client,
later. But it's really rare to kind of work with a team whose I guess main motivation is to make something good, make something that people love, and the branding actually. Am I allowed to say this? I actually only found out like 2 days ago that because I also work aside from doing movies and stuff, I actually do a lot of commercials, etc. So I'm very aware of we have to make there's a joke in the Philippines, lakihan ang logo, which is always
Make
like
the logo
make the
bigger.
logo bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or where's the brand bug? Or where's the colors?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm always thinking in that sense.
No wonder you wanted him as your creative director.
And I only found out like 2 days ago that the Property Guru backdrop of the host.
Yeah.
When we did season 1 is like you guys don't want it in for next time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and so as we were kind of brainstorming, so Quark puts together this really strong production team that has a lot of experience, specifically in reality TV shows. So even our casting director had worked on a lot of these really premier shows. One of the things that came up, we must have discussed this maybe like 10 different times, was how heavy-handed we should be with the branding of Property Guru.
Yes.
And every single time I said, this is not a branded play. We're not like, don't put our brand anywhere. Only if we find organic ways to do it, then let's do it. But this is not a branded piece that we're trying to push. We're not trying to hard sell anything. I don't think that people really took me seriously. So like, oh, okay, sure. But they thought I was being kind of like another silly client, right? So we would have like another meeting and then I would look through the kind of the story, but I'm like, no. I said no brand, like don't hard sell. So it really took a lot of time for us to be 100% aligned that we're trying to tell a really good story. We're trying to do something that will be engaging and entertaining for consumers. And if there happens to be an integration with the brand, then that's great. But we don't have to go really, really heavy-handed with trying to push it.
That's great. I mean, you sort of answered my next question, but I'm going to ask Quark to expand a little bit because it's branded content. It so often feels a little bit forced and a little bit inauthentic, especially when you try to, as a brand, wrap into that. So, being the reality TV, it's a proven story formula. And like I said, I didn't even link Selling Sunsets, but now I totally see it. And I'm going to wait for season 2. Is it going to get a little bit more heated?
Like that. Stay tuned.
That's what I like about Selling Sunset.
We're
but anyway, we'll come back
upping
to
the drama, upping the stakes.
Upping the drama is great. But when you do the reality show, it's sort of entertainment first. That's really what the viewers want. And so what did you help Property Guru do to get the creative right for Home Run to make it feel like a real show, not a long ad? Like, because that's sort of, if you
Yes.
put in everything, can you get them to say Property Guru and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff? It
yeah.
does end up being like a 20, 30-minute long ad.
Credit goes to, again, Alex and Shiva and the Jawai and the whole team from Property Guru. I tried to put as much branding in there as possible.
It was almost, I think he was like looking for his wallet because he wasn't sure if there was some trickery that was happening.
And it's so funny now that we're working on season 2 and we have a new writer. They're also, I always notice, like, remember like the elimination.
Yeah.
It's like they disappear from the
Yeah.
website and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we have to tell them, like, no, let's not make this like a long 20-minute ad.
Yep.
Also, I think another big change from what we were originally talking about is, of course, you're in Southeast Asia, which is very different from
Very different.
the US, the
Yes.
UK, etc. So, like Selling Sunset was actually the first show we discussed, and I mean, there's a lot of crazy people in that show.
A lot. A lot.
And you don't really get that much. I mean, or outwardly, at least
Yes,
in Southeast Asia and Singapore, right? So we
Yes.
kind of had to tweak the show to not make it like this follow story of a company, etc.
Yeah, but I still think you pulled like the emotions. Like you got a great mix with the three characters you had. Like, and I remember watching the trailer and the young Singaporean girl, with her sort of story. It was
Claire.
quite emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotional to
Really,
hear.
really
And then, but you had the great characters, like you had the other lady, Malay background. It's just super,
Nadia.
couldn't have a bigger smile
Yeah, she
than
was so
her.
bubbly and just so relatable.
Like you
yeah.
had a really good mix in there. So I think you really, as much as you didn't have the drama, which I still want to see in season 2, you definitely still pulled off the emotions that we talk about when we talk about storytelling. I think that's so important. Do you have anything to add for the marketers out there, like what you think about with the story arcs and that emotional side of things?
Yeah,
good.
Well, I was actually talking to your producer right before we recorded, and we brought up that a lot of the content now is basically like, oh, we have to tackle this issue or we have to sell this, but you kind of lose the humanity, you kind of lose the story. So I think that's very, very important when you're kind of doing this thing. Is it like, oh, we're going to sell more burgers, or are we going to talk about a touching family tale where people are united with food, you know what I mean? Like that kind of has to be at the forefront, at the front of your head, right? When you're thinking of something like this. So that's because you're gonna have to keep people there for 20 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes versus a commercial where it's like 30 seconds, and even then people want to click the skip button already, right?
Yes.
So
Got 6 seconds, 3 seconds, 15
Exactly.
seconds.
So and thankfully, Property Guru really, it's about finding your home.
Yeah.
Which is a very universal thing, and
That's right.
And
it taps into that universal truth that people want to watch.
and the drama of the
And I think just to add in there is because I remember we were talking about this in another forum, and I was saying that as a brand we didn't want a hard sell, we didn't want our logo to be as big as possible, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we were hands off as a brand, right? And so, for example, we did actually look at some of those directions, saying in other countries you have like a Selling Sunset where the core of the show is basically people that hate each other and are fighting and tearing each other down, right? That works for that format, and obviously that's an incredibly successful show. But I think for us, even as a brand, the experience that we wanted people to come away with was something that was a lot more hopeful and optimistic, right? And when we think about what we do, it is helping people find their home, but it's not just the mere fact that you have found a home and then you live there, right? It's that's where you live your life, that's where you raise your family, that's where you have all your major milestones. So we wanted the experience to be a lot more hopeful and optimistic in tone, and that was where I think the brand interjection kind of came a little bit more forcefully into play.
Yeah, I could see that in the building blocks of the stories, like with some of the showings where, they were sort of feeding back, the main sort of lady who sat there was feeding back, oh, that was great. You knew that they like to do this, they like to do that, and gave them sort of good marks. And that sort of went to them sort of winning that day or whatever when they were doing it. So I can see that coming through, which is really good. But I want to talk numbers. But before we do, so we were all at Digital Day by the Marketing Society, and I started with performance addiction and how, especially in Asia, a lot of people are skewed towards performance marketing. And at Analytic Partners, we really do know that there should be a balance of brand and performance. And we say "and" because we don't believe it's one or the other. We know if you've come from performance marketing only and you add in brand, you can get up to 90% ROI increase. We also know a minimum of 35% brand we recommend, but actually up to about 75% brand depending on your category and stuff like that. And the reason I'm saying all of this is because when I sat there and you guys were, again, talking about the show, I think, Alex, you came out with one word where you said, yes, I cut all my performance marketing. And I think everybody went, oh my goodness, what?
Yeah. So, I didn't realize there was going to be a mic. I should have known my audience.
It was a mic drop.
I don't always get invited to these sessions because who knows what I'm going to say.
So tell me what are your feels about, brand versus performance, the mix, the optimum mix, and where that is before we start talking numbers about this reality show, because this is obviously brand. This is a big brand play that you've done. So I feel like you cutting performance also came into that decision of why you went big on brand.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just to set a little bit of context here is I'm a performance marketer by background. I cut my teeth at Google 15 years ago, deep into search. I spent a lot of time at Meta as well, also on the performance marketing side. So I love ROI. I love measurability and accountability. But I think what I've learned over time is that we, for some reason, are still having this false dichotomy of a question of, are you spending on brand or performance?
Yep.
And in a lot of cases, what I've generally seen is that it's not a either or. I think you mentioned this earlier, right? It's an and, right?
Effect.
And even when we talk about, for example, like what's the optimum mix and which channels and where you should be investing, the way that I see it is that marketers now more than ever have to be as closely aligned to the business as possible.
Yep.
And the challenge that a lot of marketers come with, from my experience, is that they have a playbook and they'll say, my playbook is 25% brand, 75% performance on these 5 channels, and then you just sort of rerun that same playbook. But that might not necessarily be right for the brand, for the company, and also for the consumer and the objective that you're trying to tackle.
Absolutely.
So I think with that said, one of the things that I've been really mindful of is that we have this very high brand awareness in Singapore. We previously had always on campaigns that were running to acquire users. But even outside of all the brand initiatives that we've been doing, I've really been doubling down on a lot of the organic channels that we have. So our SEO is incredibly strong right now. That's about 70% of the total traffic that we get. And then the other 30% is going to be direct to our website. And so about 6 months ago, after a lot of the kind of brand transformation work that me and my team were pushing for, I took a little bit of a risk and I said, what would happen if we suspended all performance marketing? Let's just do it for a month and kind of do it a little bit under the radar.
That's a bit of a test, right?
The business teams weren't necessarily enthused that because we were, because performance marketing, we were measuring it, right? And it was delivering a substantial part of our sessions and our leads every single month. But kind of working off that hypothesis that our brand is stronger than ever, people know, they resonate with us, they trust us as well. What would happen if we turned it off? Could our organic channels pick up the slack for it? So we did it for a month in November. The results actually looked too good to be true. So we actually saw a 3% increase in the number of leads that we were getting when we turned off our performance marketing. So everyone thought that there was some sort of flaw in the test design. So we said, okay, let's rerun it again. Because I mean, if the numbers are going up, let's just stick with it. We did it in December. We reran it again in January. We measured against the seasonality as well. Our numbers are continuing to go up every single month. And so it's one of those things where it wasn't sort of one dramatic moment where I said, okay, performance marketing is done. And it was a big bomb that we dropped. But are all of the business metrics that our CFO and our business leaders care about are as strong as they've ever been. And we don't have to spend on performance marketing, which then either allows us to return money to the business or to invest in other things that we think can continue to be that flywheel for us from a branding perspective. So generally, it's been really positive for us across the board.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, what we see at Analytic Partners is, it depends how you measure. So a lot of people are going on the attribution, and that can be a little bit flawed in the fact that they think it's paid search, but actually it's still brand.
Yeah.
It's still
Absolutely.
programmatic, something else. And then it's just the last click that
Yeah.
sort of happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
But rightly, what you said, that's a great way to test it out. And that's what we always, work with our clients. What happened if we turn this off? Do the numbers still go up? Do we need to be putting the money in there? Because if not, where can we move it? And I think that's really great that, you're able to do those tests and had the confidence. Most people don't have the confidence to turn it off. Yeah. They'll be like,
I wasn't sure
goodness.
if I'd have a job in a couple of months, but here I am
Big
still.
swings.
I love
Still
that.
employed.
I love that. So now let's talk numbers. So you basically went, great, we're still going up and brand is helping us, and you put the money back in and you've got the show. What were you tracking? So what were you looking at? Was it organic search? Was it, brand metrics that you had in place? Like, what were you tracking for the success of the reality show? Because I know there's a lot of marketers out there and they go, I love it. But number one, I don't know how I'm going to convince my CEO. And number two, once I get it up and going, how am I going to prove it? So we're going to go back to how you did the business case in a moment, but first just tell me how you proved it as you went along.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things, I think from a marketing perspective, is you can't bet everything on one single moonshot, right? And there's a really, really fine line between innovation, risk-taking, and being reckless. Mm-hmm. And so the way that I look at it is when we did the very first season of Home Run, I didn't actually make any fuss about it whatsoever. In fact, I was running it as an individual contributor. I don't know if you remember the first maybe 2 months of meetings that we had. It was just me on the team because I wasn't making a fuss. I wasn't trying to rally the whole company around this whole new bet that we were taking. And a lot of that was by design because I wasn't sure kind of what people how they would respond to the concept of doing a reality TV show. But what I've generally found with marketing in particular in large organizations is that it's really easy for people to kind of question or knock the idea when it's still in theory. And then saying, what are the full metrics and the plan and all of that, which is, I understand. But at the same time, when you've actually got something kind of working and sort of a live model of something, it becomes a lot easier for everyone to rally behind that. So truth be told, there wasn't a whole lot of science behind the show. The science was basically that I think we can do it for a fairly low cost upfront. And once we got there, then it said, okay, now this has the potential to be a spotlight that we're able to engage consumers on. A lot of people will watch it, and then we can kind of direct them to do different things and feel ways about our brand. So generally speaking, when I look at these types of initiatives, I wouldn't actually even measure it in silo. I mean, we saw from the show alone about 5 million views. We did a pre and a post brand survey as well. We saw that our preference scores went up, our NPS went up. But I would say that even something like this it's better to measure it in the totality of all the different types of brand works that are happening, so that we can then say collectively, this is how people are feeling about our brand after all the different things that we've done throughout the year.
I love that. And I love the stealth mode of setting it up where no one, I've done that a few times. Neil's done that with me a few times in previous companies as well. So I'm all for that. That's great. So when did you go to the CEO, CFO? Or did you do it all in stealth mode and basically go, it's done, look at this, and we didn't have to pay a lot of money and wonderful?
I was in stealth mode for about maybe 60% of the project. I think we were
and then suddenly, who are these people?
Quark was like, can I come into the office now?
And to be fair, it wasn't... actually, coming out of stealth mode was primarily just because I didn't have the bandwidth to individual contributor project the whole thing by myself. So I needed a team. But generally speaking, what I tried to do was, we had that. Home Run was a really big sort of new innovation that we tried out. But I think one of the things that helped is that a lot of our kind of general fundamentals were going strong. So as I was working with our business teams and our CFOs, over time, I was building that trust with them to say, our business, I'm looking at the business very closely. The things that we know are working, the channels that exist, we're continuing to invest in them. That's going well. For a small part of our budget, we're going to invest in some new things that likely will not work, but we think that they have the potential for 10x outcomes.
Yep.
And that was really the framing of how I started to position it to our leaders internally was, I don't think PropertyGuru is any business being in the reality TV show business. I don't think it necessarily is set up to do well. You know, I mean, we have Quark, that's probably the best thing about it, but we don't have any experience in this show.
Yeah.
So I was already prepping everyone internally that this likely will not work out.
Yep.
But if it does, what could happen? What could we do with this kind of newfound cultural clout that we're able to get? And so that was a lot of the kind of internal positioning that I did.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's
That's
just
such an underrated skill, right?
managing those expectations, downplaying it, and like you said, I think it's, you know, as CMOs, we have to take the leadership position to say we've got to do some test and learn. There's got to be, you know, some money for it. It's not necessarily always going to work, and I think that shows a very strong leader. When you can actually say, I'm going to back it. I don't know if it's going to work. If it does, it pays off great. If not, we move on to the next one, because that's what marketing is all about.
Absolutely. And I think that especially as a leader in a marketing organization, part of the benefit is that you have to give your entire team cover to take those types of risks. And in a lot of ways, and this wasn't part of my CFO pitch, but in a lot of ways, I was doing it actually more for the internal courage that it could potentially give to the other people in my organization to say, if I, as the marketing leader, greenlit this kind of completely left field reality TV show, there's no idea that you have that can be more left field than what I've worked on, right? and it's really, I think it's actually really paid dividends. I even beyond kind of the core business metrics and the marketing metrics, ever since we did Home Run Season 1, we've had just this huge wave of new creative energy all across our organization.
Yep.
So I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, we just released our very first merchandise line with a streetwear designer called Mr. Sabotage.
Ooh.
That merchandise debuted in Paris Fashion Week, and we now are being covered by Grazia, and there's a Vogue article that's coming out later this week as well.
Wow.
And again, like these types of things are only possible because we're really just setting the expectation as a culture that we are going to not just encourage risk taking, but we're going to celebrate it even when it doesn't work out.
I love that. I love that. And that's the thing, that safe culture for your team to be able to explore. I know when I was at UPS, I tried to do the same. We ended up having a beatboxer do like a song for us and it was similar to that, is I let the team ideate and test these things out. The CMO Office is brought to you by Analytic Partners, the global leader in commercial analytics, which turns data into expertise to help marketers make the impact in the C-suite we need. What kind of impact? For every dollar spent on Analytic Partners last year, we return $70 in incremental revenue. To find out more, go to analyticpartners.com. But I want to understand, and this is for both of you, obviously you had the reality show, but like with everything, even if it's branded content, we still want to maximize the most we get out of it. So you had the show. How else did you lay it into everything out of the marketing? Like, were you doing the cut downs and thinking about the trailers and what else? And I know you love all the branded stuff, so you're trying to get the brand stuff in there. But, you know, how else did it go into the rest of your sort of flywheel that you had? And how did you help? And what was your sort of strategy on that, Alex?
Well, one thing I was really happy about was that it kind of went viral among like YouTube creators and stuff. Like, I think one of the biggest breakthroughs was like this big personality, Sneaky Sushi, reviewed it.
Yep.
Sneaky Sushi and his girlfriend Dewey.
And had you sent it to them to review? They just found it on their own.
Yeah, and this is the beauty, I think, of what Quark was able to create, is because, again, it wasn't a branded commercial. It wasn't a 30-minute commercial. It was engaging and interesting on its own. So we had creators that were just picking it up. And so in that case, that was sort of our Christmas surprise. That was like, I think, a month after we had released it. Okay. And he's one of the top creators in Singapore. I think he's got about 700,000 subscribers on YouTube. He debuted his girlfriend for the first time, and they did a live reaction watching. So they would watch the show and then do kind of these reaction videos. It's all organic, right? We didn't pay for that at all.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it becomes very organic. And I think I did have a hand in the trailers, etc. But honestly, I didn't need to. I think there was such a deep understanding already with the whole team, both in Amok, the production house, and PropertyGuru, that which is so great, right? When something becomes so infectious that everybody kind of already understands what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And how else did you leverage it for all of your other sort of marketing and branding that you did?
Well, actually, what's interesting, so we've just greenlit season 2.
I know.
And so we're knee deep into getting this off the ground. So what was interesting is that it was sort of meant to be a one season experiment. And then now our budgets are bigger because we really seen positive ROI from this initiative. And now this gives us, I think, a lot more opportunity in terms of where we want to shape the project and not being as kind of budget constrained as we were for season 1, where we were just sort of like a startup-y little operation getting this off the ground. But one of the interesting use cases that has emerged that candidly was not part of my original intention was that it actually has been a really strong source of agent branding as well.
Okay.
So for our business, we actually are B2B2C.
Yes.
So a lot of the revenue that we get comes from agents and developers. So consumers use Property Guru for free. And one of the challenges is that because real estate is so competitive, especially amongst agents, is that branding is a really important way for them to be able to distinguish themselves from each other and get new customers. So with season 2, we opened up the auditions on social. And now that we've got proof of concept, a lot of people wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So it's been, and we've seen it, and this is, again, where our business teams are a lot happier. We've seen cases where agents are renewing or signing up for packages to be, so that they could audition just to be on the show. Because one of our criteria is that you have to be a Property Guru agent in order to be featured on the show. So we're seeing a lot of these types of sort of unplanned use cases, but obviously they're great, right? I'm happy when we get new revenue. But again, like I think when we start from a really good, interesting, creative idea and the right team to do it, then you can start kind of finding a whole bunch of use cases that can scale as well.
That's super interesting. I love that. So talking about season 2, and you said you're in the midst of casting. Quark, you're working obviously with real agents, not actors. So what storytelling decisions made the show feel real and still drive the brand resonance? And what do you look for when you're looking at those casting of real people?
Well, thankfully for season 2, actually, we were just discussing this earlier before the show that they've stepped up in terms of like presenting an online presence. So now most of the people applying have, I think one of the reasons we chose Nadia from season 1 was she had a YouTube channel. Now everybody has a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And everyone's like touring. This
a lot
one
of agents
Balmoral,
do.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, a lot of them do.
Yeah.
So
They do
now,
it naturally as well.
And that's the agent branding piece that I was talking about earlier.
Right? Yeah. And then one thing that we kind of have to dig for is really personal stories. Like, I mean, admittedly, I think Nadia in season 1, we already knew her family background, which is a big factor in choosing. But we didn't know Claire so much. And
that was quite emotional, her story.
When she was talking about growing up and, like didn't know if she had enough money to get the bus home. Like that only really came out during her interview.
Wow.
And that's why it was so spontaneous and I guess magical for everyone.
Yeah, it definitely came through.
Yeah, so now we're really kind of like digging more and then looking for those snippets because, what drives you? Why are you an agent, right? We want a good mix. We want a diverse mix. We want a mix of like people who are, more in it for investment and financial knowledge and some who are more for the, the design factor and the wow factor, the glitz. So a lot of mix in terms of like background.
Exciting.
And this is also quite different for you because you're primarily used to scripted content, right? So a lot of he makes, I mean, at least in the Philippines, he's very famous for these sort of heavy drama, award-winning type of
first
shows.
reality show for you?
The first I've directed, actually.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I mean, when I was at Globe Studios and when I was at Amazon, I produced a few.
Yeah.
But this were the one where I'm actually there all the time. So yeah, I think our love for reality is equal. but I've been watching more now.
You did. Yeah, never thought you'd go into reality shows and now you're both in it.
Both of us, actually.
But but it's been fun.
But I'm curious, and you don't have to say because I know it's not launched, but season 2, is it going to be more than 3 this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Much
Exciting.
more.
Much more. Oh, that's super exciting.
So bigger, more exciting, a little bit more drama, higher stakes as well.
I'm
Can we
super
say?
excited.
And there's going to be elimination.
Elimination. Oh, wow. Now we're going to bring the drama in. But I think this is great. You know, as marketers and as storytellers, we know these things work. And definitely as a producer, you understand that too. But often we don't get to do it. And I think it's a really great example for a lot of the CMOs to say, you know, it started over beer or wine, and it was, like you said,
a couple cocktails. I won't say how many.
Stealth mode. Those were all the best, I guess. But it was stealth mode of a test and learn, and pitched to the, you know, to the senior leaders as it's probably not going to work. And then because you got proof of concept, now the second season, like, you can do exactly what you want to do. And I think that's one of the things, you know, a lot of people want to go straight to the big one, where often if you start with the test and learn approach, you can get there a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you're trying to hit a home run right out of the park, then
home run.
I know, it was just
Season 2 coming soon.
Marketing. It becomes a lot. I mean, the pressure is a lot higher, right? Because you're asking for a fairly sizable budget, and then you're asking for the resources and the team and the focus. And in those cases, you have to have a really clear ROI and a clear strategy of what you're doing. And you have to have a lot of conviction that it's going to succeed. But I think when you start smaller, treat it like an MVP, a minimum viable product, see what happens in the wild. And then as it kind of works or doesn't work, then you can kind of refine it and see if you want to do something else for season 2. But I think that was the only way. Like, even if I had the budget for season 2 that I had the first time around, I don't think we would have been as successful, actually, because we would have so many different ideas and directions of where to take it. But now season 2, I have a lot more conviction in the success because of all the things we learned. I mean, both of us working on reality TV shows for the first time, I learned a lot in terms of how we can actually get this off the ground, and then where we can make it more impactful in certain areas. So I think season 2 will be a lot more effective, actually.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, one of the byproducts that you didn't know was the creativity that came out of your team and the additional things that you're doing now, just because you went with an idea that's very creative. And in a world of AI at the moment, you know, it's getting more and more same. You know, to stand out is getting harder, and definitely, I think for marketers, the creativity often gets sucked out of us for a number of reasons of, you know, finance and all that different things. So I think that's really, really good. I've got a couple of questions. Same question for both of you, slightly different. So for you, Alex, first, what's one result or insight or shift that you, and I know you've said a few, but give me one more that you didn't expect that came out of this. I think you've named a few, but try and give me one more.
One more.
Maybe a metric, maybe more of a result.
Well, actually, there's been quite a few. New revenue from the show. That's been interesting. Like, originally this was meant to be a marketing play, but we've actually been using this as a revenue channel as well. So
love it.
We're currently working with developers to sponsor parts of the show.
That's right. You were telling me. Yes.
Yeah. So the model that we're using is. Do you watch The White Lotus? Have you seen that show?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I used to work at HBO, and this is a really interesting thing where in the second season, they filmed it in the Four Seasons Hotel in Hawaii, but they never mentioned the hotel whatsoever. But internet watchers are sleuthy enough to be able to find out where it was filmed, and because it was beautiful and it was a really interesting, engaging story. The following year, the Four Seasons was entirely sold out for every single day, right? So we're trying to use a little bit of that model, which is that. Same with developers. Whenever they have new types of units that are available, they really want to stand out. They really want to try to get that branding and that exposure. So in addition to all of our selfish marketing needs, we're also trying to see if this could be a revenue generating channel as well, which also was not on the initial plan when we first set this up.
Which I think is great as well. You know, as marketers, if we can bring in revenue, and like you said, it's something that helps internally for you, for the brand, but then on top of that, if it's paying for itself, even better. I love that. For you, Quark, creativity speaking, what's one thing that you didn't expect, or either didn't expect and it was great, or something happened you had to pivot?
Well, the one thing I didn't expect that was great actually was the kind of like mainstream respect in the sense of the TV industry.
Okay.
So it's been invited to some awards, award giving bodies like that are really more for traditional
amazing
television, right? Like the more like The Apprentice, and so you don't think you're gonna play in that field. Number one, because you're on YouTube. Number two, because you're kind of like on a branded channel. But even the people involved in season 2 are from, the Next Top Model, are from
Wow.
yeah. So there's like a lot of
Wow.
like
Definitely tuning in now.
like like television and
Amazing.
broadcast talent that have been interested, that have been paying attention, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy it's not kind of like dismissed as like, oh, this is a like a
That's
branded
amazing.
thing.
When am I listening out for the awards?
You know what? I think it's August. I
August,
think it's,
it's coming.
Quite a few
Okay.
ongoing,
So
yeah.
it's,
I will listen out.
So
Yeah.
I think it's like 2 weeks or something. But yeah, so
That's,
knock
that's
on wood.
really,
so.
that's a great surprise.
And I think just to add in here is I'm a huge believer in earned media and talkability. And the challenge is that if we sort of stayed in the lanes that we were previously in, we were only being asked to comment on real estate trends. So it would be, large newspaper publications saying, comment on the new housing policy or something like that, right? But with some of the new marketing areas that we've explored, that allows us to start connecting with new audiences as well, because as Quark mentioned, it's the traditional TV and media space that will kind of start talking about us. And now when we're doing some of this streetwear collaboration stuff, Vogue and Grassy, like I don't think that Property Guru in their wildest imaginations ever thought they would be mentioned in Vogue or Grassy magazine. So these are new audiences that we're trying to tap into. And a lot of it's coming through earned media, which I think is really fantastic.
Yeah, no, I think that really does show the breadth of brand, and that's why we always say as marketers, brand building is a fundamental, and then add in plus performance, and it gives you that multiplier effect. That's great. So before we finish up, I'm just going to circle back again to some of the metrics, because I know all the listeners are probably going to say, okay, so what going forward, season 2, up the budget. So now, what are some of the benchmarks? Are you setting up higher benchmarks? What are you going to track? What does success look like?
I'll get my notebook.
I
actually don't know these.
Well, I think so. So just as a reference point, we got about 5 million views in season 1. Very minimal paid media that we put behind that. So that a lot of that pickup was organic. We're hoping for much more than that. I don't know what our exact numbers are for season 2, but so for example, Sneaky Sushi, one of the YouTubers who are we allowed to say this?
I think we are.
He signed on, right? so we've actually brought him on board this time as the host of the show.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're really excited to have him on the show and be a part of it. So in terms of metrics, definitely we're looking at a lot of the core metrics that we saw last time in terms of the earned media, the pickup, the views that we got organically. And then simultaneously, we're looking at the agent branding piece. That has become really central to the show now, and that wasn't something that we were measuring in season 1. So we're looking at all the agents that we're able to give that platform to, and then also looking at the revenue we're getting there, and then finally the developer revenue channel as well. So between all of those things together, it's looking quite interesting.
I love that. That's very robust. Like we said, you said at the beginning, is leveling back up to the business objectives, and like that's a meaty finance coming in there, right? So multiple streams, multiple reasons of why brand is playing a role, all from a reality TV show. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, before I ask you my final question, which is a fun one, any closing remarks, anything you want to sneak preview about season 2, or any advice about reality TV shows for the marketers listening?
Let's see. Well, I'm trying to think.
Quark wants to give sneak peeks about season 2. I know he does.
No, season 2 is definitely going to be so much more exciting. There's gonna every episode is gonna be very different. Where season 1, every episode was like a viewing, right? That was a challenge. Now there's only one episode that's gonna have viewing, and everything else there's gonna be challenges.
Wow.
There's gonna be
Twists,
parties. There's gonna be. So it's really exciting to do this, and I think actually I'm learning so much in this podcast, because I guess internal marketing, selling to stakeholders is such a. I mean, a lesser marketer would probably be, oh, this is my big thing, and this is my great idea, and I'm going to plan.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, okay, let's manage expectations. Let's kind of be below, under the radar. Under promise, over deliver, and that's so
Absolutely.
great. That's really actually inspiring. That if you have a good idea and if you feel strongly about it, there is a way to kind of go about that, right?
Yeah.
And selling to, especially if you're in a big corporation.
Yeah, I really
right?
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for this lesson.
Yeah. We were doing the fun stuff together, and then kind of behind the scenes, I was just trying to operate and not get the project shut down.
I remember you had a meeting. You were in vacation in Vietnam or something, or Thailand.
Yeah, that's my birthday. That's right. Yeah.
So,
and I was like, I don't know if we have the budget for this. Actually, I'm gonna have to try to squeeze this in a couple of pockets from different directions.
Yeah, I've done that many times.
But yeah, I think on that note, just to kind of close off the point is with all the especially now with everything happening in AI, I think what you're gonna see is that a lot of content is going to be commoditized. It'll be really easy to just start cranking out a bunch of stuff here and there. And so I think now more than ever with marketers in particular, finding ways to cut through the noise in some way or another is almost the most important thing that you can do from a marketing perspective, because there's just going to be a sea of content that's going to be available in every single channel. Every single marketer is doing a lot of the same stuff, right? A lot of the teams that I've worked at and I've been on, we kind of, we have the tentpole campaigns and there's the always on campaigns. And it does put a lot of pressure, I think, if you really want to be successful to try to institutionalize that ability within your marketing team to try new things. And even something as like fixing a certain percentage of your budget to say 10% of our budget is always going to go to new initiatives, test and learn, trying things that we think could have 10x outcomes. That's what I think is going to be increasingly important especially in this day and age with all the AI advancements that are coming.
Yeah, I love that. I think, our viewers today have heard some great reasons of how this whole reality TV show came about and where it's going to go from here. But I think the core tenet around was that you bet big on brand, but, you did the test and learn, you started small, and then the robustness behind it of linking it to those business objectives and looking at all the different revenue streams and stuff, because that, as a CMO leader, that's what they want to hear from us. So I think that's really great, and that's what sets you up for season 2. So I'm super, super excited for that, especially if it's going to be like selling sunset. But my final question, and slightly different one for you, Quark, and for you, Alex, I'll start first. So we like to end our sessions asking our guests, what's the most overused or annoying buzzword in marketing right now that you wish would just disappear?
I'm gonna kind of cheat a little bit and say overused but underused, which is AI.
I was going to say, is it AI?
Overused in the sense that I do think that there is a lot of kind of doom scrolling and kind of prophesizing of like the end of marketing as we know it. If you take a little bit of a long-term optimist view, is that marketers always find ways to evolve when there's new technology. It happened from TV, from radio to TV to digital as well. So I think the industry will be just fine and they will evolve. I would say under buzzed in the sense that there's a lot of kind of talking and theorizing right now, but not a lot of teams that are actually doing things and getting things out the door. So a little bit of that test and learn. So I'm really trying to push my org as hard as possible to start actually doing some things so that we can really develop some strong insights about where we need to invest from an AI perspective.
Love it. Now, yours is slightly different because you're a film director. So, Quark, for you,
award-winning.
What's the most tired creative cliche or reality TV trope that you wish people would stop using?
Oh, a trope. Well, no, the cliche.
Cliche or a trope?
Is let's fix it in post.
Let's fix it in post. Yeah.
You've said this to me a couple of times, by the way. I didn't know that was a trope.
Alex, now you know, don't say let's fix it in post.
But I do say it with knowing that our foundation is strong.
Yeah.
Like you can't just relegate that problem to that. If it's not kind of like addressed, and then we'll fix it in post, and
This is where we go from friends to clients.
I can see that happening now.
So now it's good. Now I know it's going to be.
Alex, it's on the podcast, so season 2 is starting.
Okay.
So if you say, let's fix it in post,
Yeah.
Quark's just going to look at you with a stare. Wonderful.
The synergistic AI agent will come out in post.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on the CMO Office. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me on the CMO Office podcast. I hope you had a great time, and I'll see you next month. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the-cmo-office.com for your weekly dose of marketing, measurement, and insights. You can also follow us on TikTok and Spotify. I'll see you next time. Thanks.